Sometimes, the story you're living doesn't look like much, until you take a step back and realize how far you've come. This is my life story, kind of. If you've ever felt lost, unseen, or unsure where you're going, stay till the end. This story might just sound like yours too. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that speak straight to the heart. Real, raw, and unapologetically human. My life story doesn't begin with fireworks or fanfare. It begins, like most people's, somewhere in the middle of an ordinary day, on a quiet street where dreams felt both too close to touch and too far to believe in. I wasn't born extraordinary. In fact, for most of my life, I felt like I was background noise in someone else's movie. But maybe that's the point. Sometimes, the people who think they're invisible end up discovering the brightest parts of themselves when no one's watching. Growing up, I never quite knew where I belonged. I wasn't the top student, nor the worst one. I wasn't the most popular kid, nor the loner. I existed somewhere in that wide gray space where people forget your name but recognize your face. My childhood was a mix of laughter, scraped knees, unspoken dreams, and the quiet ache of wanting to be someone that mattered. My parents did what they could, teaching me the value of hard work even when life didn't reward it. My father was a man of few words, and my mother, a storm of love and worry. I learned early that life doesn't always wait for you to be ready before it throws you into the deep end. I remember sitting by my bedroom window at age 10, staring out at the stars and wondering if they were looking back at me. I used to whisper small wishes to the night, that I'd grow up to do something meaningful, something people would remember. But as I grew older, life started to chip away at that innocent kind of hope. Reality crept in with every unpaid bill, every lost opportunity, every friend who drifted away. Life wasn't cruel, it was just indifferent. It didn't care if you were trying your best. And that realization hurt more than anything else. High school came and went like a blur. It was the era of first crushes, first heartbreaks, and the first time I realized that fitting in sometimes meant losing parts of yourself. I pretended to be someone I wasn't, funnier, tougher, more confident. But every time I looked in the mirror, I saw a version of myself that felt like a stranger. I wanted people to see me, but I was terrified of being seen. I think a lot of people feel that way, caught between the fear of invisibility and the fear of exposure. College was my great escape. I left my hometown with a suitcase full of dreams and a head full of illusions. I thought I'd reinvent myself, become the kind of person who had it all figured out. But college has a funny way of humbling you. It strips away your illusions until you're left with raw truth. I struggled to find my place. I watched others move ahead while I was stuck figuring out who I even was. I chased validation, from professors, from peers, from strangers online. I tried to fill the emptiness with likes, achievements, and late-night conversations that never lasted past graduation. Then came the part of life no one warns you about, adulthood. The part where dreams meet deadlines, and idealism meets rent. I found a job, not because I loved it, but because I needed it. My first paycheck felt like freedom and failure rolled into one. I'd made it out of the chaos of youth, only to enter the quiet exhaustion of responsibility. My 20s were a constant tug of war between who I wanted to be and who I had to be. I said yes to things I didn't want, stayed in places that drained me, and smiled when I wanted to scream. Because that's what adults do, right? They survive. But survival isn't the same as living. I realized that one night while walking home from work. The city lights shimmered like distant promises, and I wondered if this was it, if my life would just be a series of routines, paychecks, and small talk. The thought terrified me. I didn't want to die with my story unwritten. I wanted to feel alive again, the way I did as a kid staring at the stars. So I started to write. Not for an audience, not for fame, but for myself. I poured my fears, my failures, my almosts into words. And for the first time in years, I felt free. Writing became my therapy, my rebellion, my confession. I wrote about heartbreaks that never healed, about dreams I buried under practicality, about moments of joy so fragile they felt sacred. Slowly, my story started to take shape, not as a tale of success, but as a mosaic of small, beautiful struggles. Somewhere along the way, I realized that meaning isn't something you find, it's something you build. It's in the quiet mornings when you decide to keep going even when no one cares. It's in the friendships that survive distance, in the tears that teach you empathy, in the failures that reshape your strength. My life didn't turn out the way I expected, but maybe that's the beauty of it, the unpredictability, the messy magic of being human. I've loved and lost more than once. I've watched people walk away without explanation, and I've learned that closure is something you give yourself. I've chased happiness only to find it hiding in the simplest moments, in laughter over cheap coffee, in long walks with no destination, in quiet nights when I finally make peace with myself. There was a time when I believed my worth was measured by my achievements, the degrees, the promotions, the applause. But life has a way of teaching you that success means nothing if you can't look in the mirror and recognize yourself. I learned that the real measure of a person isn't how high they climb, but how deeply they feel, how kindly they treat others, and how bravely they keep trying. My life isn't a straight line, it's a collage of detours, heartbreaks, and small victories. I've fallen, failed, and rebuilt myself countless times. There were days I didn't want to get out of bed, and nights I couldn't sleep because of the noise in my head. But I kept going, sometimes crawling, sometimes stumbling, but always moving. Because somewhere deep down, I knew that the story doesn't end in the middle of the struggle. The turning point came not with success, but with surrender. I stopped trying to be perfect. I stopped pretending I had it all figured out. I let myself be flawed, messy, and real. And that's when life began to open up. Opportunities came not because I forced them, but because I started to show up authentically. People began to resonate with my honesty, my vulnerability. For the first time, I felt seen, not for who I was trying to be, but for who I truly was. Now, when I look back, I don't see a story of fame or glory. I see a journey, uneven, imperfect, but mine. Every heartbreak, every failure, every detour shaped me. I've learned that life isn't about avoiding pain, it's about finding meaning in it. Every scar tells a story, and every tear waters something new within you. If you were expecting a story of overnight success, this isn't it. My life story is about slow growth, quiet resilience, and the kind of hope that refuses to die. It's about realizing that even when no one believes in you, you can still choose to believe in yourself. It's about finding beauty in the ordinary and strength in the broken. Sometimes, I still feel lost. I still question my choices. But that's okay. Being lost is just part of finding yourself again and again. Life doesn't come with a map. It comes with moments, moments that test you, heal you, change you. I've met people who inspired me, people who disappointed me, and people who mirrored parts of myself I hadn't yet accepted. Every encounter, every heartbreak, every goodbye left a trace. And though I didn't realize it at the time, each one was teaching me something: patience, humility, compassion, forgiveness. There's a quiet power in not giving up, in choosing to try again, even when you're tired, in showing up, even when you're scared. That's what my story is really about, not the wins, but the will. Not the spotlight, but the struggle behind it. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that life doesn't happen the way you plan it, it happens the way you grow through it. Every wrong turn led me somewhere unexpected, somewhere necessary. The things I thought were endings turned out to be beginnings in disguise. The moments I thought broke me actually built me. And now, as I stand at this point in my life, not at the top, not at the bottom, but somewhere in between, I realize that this kind of story is still being written. And maybe it always will be. Maybe life isn't about reaching a destination at all. Maybe it's about learning to appreciate the journey, the laughter, the tears, the quiet in-betweens. So yes, this is my life story, kind of. It's not glamorous or perfect, but it's real. It's the story of a person who fell down, got up, and kept walking. Someone who learned that it's okay not to have all the answers, as long as you keep asking the right questions. Someone who learned that self-worth isn't given, it's built, day by day, through choices, mistakes, and forgiveness. And if my story sounds anything like yours, if you've ever felt unseen, uncertain, or unfinished, then maybe you're still in the best part of your own story. The part where you're growing quietly, away from the applause. The part where you're becoming something stronger than before. Because one day, you'll look back and realize, every moment, even the painful ones, led you here. And maybe, here, isn't perfect. But it's yours. And that's enough. If this story touched something deep inside you, don't let it fade away. Let it remind you that your story matters too. Every breath, every setback, every small victory counts. Subscribe now for more stories that make you feel seen, inspired, and human. Because your next chapter might just begin with a story like this one. Your life is unfolding, and it's worth every single word.